Our next thread is titled, Prayed for a Pregnancy and Forgot to Pray for a Husband. After being diagnosed with PCOS, I really thought the idea of having another child was completely out the door for me. Not to mention the guy that I was dating was on testosterone, and we thought that that made him sterile as well. I was hopeful that I could get pregnant and prayed and prayed and prayed over again for the opportunity to bless another child in this world. Despite going through difficulties in my relationship, I was willing to overlook them so that I could have a baby. Well, in January, I finally decided that this summer I was going to spend time alone, traveling the world, and calling it quits with my relationship. My dreams of having another child really resulted to either going to a sperm bank or adopting. I prayed that God send me a sign whether to leave this relationship or not. Then came the positive pregnancy test. I've been beyond grateful and blessed to be now 13 weeks pregnant, but my relationship hasn't changed. I still feel a lot of anxiety towards the future with my boyfriend. This relationship causes me so much anxiety that the only thing I can do to feel better is to be away from him. We don't live together, so that's easy, but we argue about money, if I'm still communicating with other males, and other pointless stuff. This weekend we went on a cruise and he disappeared for half the day because he wanted space. Is anyone else feeling like they're okay with just having a baby daddy and not a husband? This one kind of makes me cringe a little bit, to be honest. I can imagine this feeling of being so desperate to have a child. Although she says of having another child, so she's probably had at least one child before. But I can get that, having this feeling of, man, this would be a really, I think it's a biological need for a lot of women as well. And I do think that you associate so many feelings with that experience of having a child that I can kind of get it. That said, I personally would not be behaving in such a way that it's possible for me to get pregnant if my relationship was in a bad place. And this sounds like it was a pretty terrible relationship. I'm not sure there's any other way of saying it. She says the relationship causes me so much anxiety that the only thing I can do to feel better is to be away from him. She had already decided that she wanted to break it off. And then she prayed to God to give her a sign that she should continue the relationship. And then she's treating now the pregnancy as a sign that she should continue being in a relationship with someone who is clearly not good for her. She says, we don't live together, so that's easy. So as far as I can tell from this picture, there's obviously a lot of context missing, but as far as I can tell, they weren't living together. It was not a very stable relationship. She was really desperate to have a child, so they decided to have unprotected sex, despite the fact that it was not a great relationship. And it seems like they both kind of just assumed, oh, it's never going to happen, without taking any precautions for it, which is also irresponsible in terms of bringing a child into the world. But hey, I guess it was kind of intentional on her end. And then the things that she says, we argue about money. We argue if she's still communicating with other males, which kind of implies that maybe there was some cheating in the past. At the very least, that there's jealousy. And then she says other pointless stuff, whatever that means. And then this image of the cruise and going on a cruise together with a person and then having that person take off for half the day kind of says a lot about the state of your relationship all by itself. So this is really unfortunate. Under those circumstances, I would never have wanted to get pregnant. The statement that she says, prayed for a pregnancy and forgot to pray for a husband, I kind of just don't understand that, because if I ever wanted to get pregnant, I would want it to happen in the context of a committed, stable, secure, long-term relationship, because those for me are kind of essential in terms of choosing to bring a child into the world. That said, now she is pregnant. I would have to break up with the boyfriend because it clearly isn't working, relationally speaking, for whatever reason that is. And then you have to do the best that you can with the child as he's there. And when she says, is anyone else feeling like they're okay with just having a baby daddy and not a husband? I'd probably say for the majority of people, that is a terrible, that's not a choice that they would have gladly made. And it's just an unfortunate circumstance that they ended in. But you have to come to terms with the situations that you find yourself in and then try to make the best of them for your child moving forward. This is a really, really, really unfortunate situation. I find it very sad. I think the relationship that she has here with God and prayer doesn't seem that healthy, which is also quite unfortunate, because if you're going to go to that extent, then I would hope that prayer also gives you some peace. But it doesn't seem to be the case. That's how I feel about this one. Now, unfortunately for OP here, quite a lot of people on the internet do agree with me. First person replies, so to be clear, you think getting a positive pregnancy test was a sign from God to stay in a bad, probably toxic relationship? And then OP says, I saw it as something, considering my track record of running away from relationships. My question was more geared towards advice on choosing to be a single mom and being okay with it. And yeah, OP, I understand. I feel bad for her that quite a lot of people come at it from this, including myself, come at it from this really judgmental angle. But honestly, the story that she paints, like the whole picture that she paints, is such a negative one that it's hard not to come out of it with a negative opinion of her. So yes, you can choose to be a single mom and be okay with it just because you have no other choice. And you know, it's important to raise your child. And if part of raising your child is in being a single mom, part of raising your child, at least in a non-toxic household, is being a single mom, then that's all you can do for it. But it's quite unfortunate. Next person says, I always wanted to have a 2-parent home for my future kids as I wasn't given that in my childhood, but my relationship with my baby's dad caused me so much stress that I decided to separate from him before baby girl has come. Our relationship was rocky and nothing I did could change that. He was very emotionally abusive and eventually cheated on me. I knew that becoming a single mom would cause me stress, but staying with him would cause me so much more pain and isn't something I wanted to model to my daughter. Of course, I wish it could have gone a different way, but I did all I could and it all came down to me and my baby's health and stability before anything else. Congratulations on your baby. I hope everything works out for you. Exactly that. It's one of those situations you can't really do anything about it once you're there, except work with it and move on and try to find a better way to raise your child. But it's very much the lesser of two evils, you know, and the other evil that's pretty damn awful is staying in the same relationship and just growing, like having your child raised, seeing toxic behavior and being around toxic behavior all the time. And that's so much more stressful, both for you and for the baby than it would have to be. The next person says, why would you try to have a baby when you're already having issues in your relationship? I've been with my boyfriend 11 years and we're barely having our first child together. We've had our ups and downs, but did not plan or try to have a baby until our relationship was stable and drama-free. Communication really helped us get to the amazing place we are in now. And that's honestly, I think, a good question. One person replies to this saying, this isn't exactly a helpful comment since she's already pregnant. She's asking for help and advice, not condemnation. Fair enough. She is asking for help and advice, not condemnation. But I do believe that every person who ends up in this type of situation should have this moment of self-reflection where they go, okay, what got me here? How did I end up in this situation? Why is my child in this situation? How should I behave in future that this doesn't happen to any future kids that I may have? Or that I can teach my child not to act in the same way so that she or he don't end up in the same situation. I think that that's a fair question. And then this OP actually replies to this and she says, I've spent a decade trying to figure if it's me. And this relationship has taught me some things on me and my anxiety. Nonetheless, when we discussed having a child, I knew exactly what I wanted. And at first it didn't include a family, which leads me to my question of not wanting to get married, but wanting a child. It's a little bit confusing to me as a statement. Honestly, I think OP was not in a good headspace and is probably still not in a very good headspace. And I'm not sure that getting advice on the internet is the best way to try and get into a better place when it comes to raising this baby. But it's really, really unfortunate. And I hope people learn from stories like this that this is not the way that you should be having kids. I think kids are awesome. And I think everyone should consider whether they want to have children or not. But I do think that at least trying to have some kind of stable relationship with the member of the opposite sex before you do that is probably a good way to that's the foundation. And then you can have as many kids as you want. And nowadays we have all of these tools available to us that make it possible for you to stop yourself from getting pregnant until you make a conscious, clear decision that this is what you want to do. And you can try and make that decision as a couple and not as an individual person who's desperate to have a child. I'm a little bit sad because she says, my dreams of having another child really would result in either going to a sperm bank or adopting. I think if I were her, I would have probably tried to adopt under those circumstances if it weren't possible for me to have my own kids. But it's really sad. It's really, really sad. Please make better decisions.